Welcome to the Crying Inside channel. This is where family stories are told with honesty, full of emotion, and filled with valuable lessons. Thank you for being here with us, because what you're about to hear is not just a story, but a journey through love, betrayal, and the strength to finally stand up for yourself. Have you ever sacrificed your entire youth for your family, only to realize that everything you gave was completely invisible to them? Have you ever poured all your money, energy, and soul into keeping your loved ones safe, only to be rejected at the moment you hoped for a simple thank you? Today's story will take you into that pain. This is the story of Amanda, a woman who spent nearly 10 years carrying the full financial burden for her parents. She paid the rent, living expenses, car costs, and quietly put her own dreams on hold. Amanda believed that love and loyalty meant sacrifice. She believed that one day her family would see her worth. But instead of being appreciated, she was rejected. And it happened on the most family-centered holiday in America, Thanksgiving. What happened that night wasn't just an argument. It was an explosion, exposing years of parental favoritism and unrecognized sacrifice. Amanda's father disowned her right in front of the whole family, and what Amanda did next shocked everyone. Stay with us, because this family story will remind you that sometimes the ones you give the most to are the ones who appreciate you the least. Before we start, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any emotional stories on Crying Inside. That Thanksgiving dinner, Amanda's family home buzzed with laughter and chatter, the smell of roasted turkey filling the air. The long table was covered with a spotless white cloth, piled high with traditional dishes. Family gathered close, glasses of wine poured, everyone thinking it would be a warm evening like any other American family. But within just a few minutes, Amanda's whole world crumbled right before her eyes. Amanda, 33 years old, sat at the end of the table, quietly watching everyone. She spent nearly $500 preparing the entire party, from the heavy turkey to the pumpkin pies and the expensive wine she carefully picked out. But in every word and every glance, she realized that all her efforts went unnoticed. All the attention was on Ryan, her younger brother by 5 years, who never succeeded in any project but was always praised by their parents as their greatest pride. When the conversation turned to work and finances, Amanda mustered all her courage to share her pride. She had just finished a major project with her colleagues for a bank, landing a multi-million-dollar contract for the company. But just after she spoke a few words, her father, Thomas, interrupted with a dismissive tone. He coldly said, "You're just a computer repair person, nothing special." The family fell silent, some forced a smile, and Amanda choked back tears. Years of studying, working tirelessly, sacrificing personal dreams, and using most of her income to support her parents all reduced to a cold remark. And even more bitter, her mother, Linda, quickly shifted the topic to Ryan, excitedly talking about the online fitness app idea he had just come up with. All eyes turned to Ryan, while Amanda faded away from the table like a shadow. Amanda couldn't hold back anymore. Amid the noisy party, her voice trembled but was firm. "Do you know who has been paying the rent, the car payments, and the utilities for this family for the past 9 years? It's me. Nearly $30,000 a year. Almost $250,000 in total." The room fell silent. Forks stopped mid-air. Wine glasses froze. Some relatives looked at Amanda confused. Others stared down at their plates. For a few seconds, Amanda thought her parents would finally understand and offer a delayed thank you. But all she got was an outburst of anger. Thomas slammed his hand on the table, his voice booming like thunder. "No one made you pay. Don't think money can buy this family. Money doesn't make a family." Linda leaned in, whispering loud enough for the whole table to hear. "You're always jealous of your brother. She's been the same since she was little." Amanda's whole body felt frozen. Her heart pounded, ears ringing. After all these years, after thousands of sleepless nights working, after postponing her dream of buying a home of her own, this was the answer she got. Not only ungrateful, but she was disowned right on the day of the family reunion. Amanda stood up and set the napkin down on the table. Her voice was strangely calm. "Then from now on, let Ryan cover all the expenses." Her father looked her straight in the eye, his voice cold. "Get out of this house, and don't come back for Christmas." The room fell silent. Only the crackling fire in the fireplace could be heard. Amanda packed her purse and stepped outside, under the pitying and awkward gazes of some relatives. The door closed behind her, and that's when she knew a part of her had just died. That night, Amanda returned to her small apartment in Austin. The familiar room suddenly felt cold. She sat down at her desk and turned on her computer. The screen lit up, reflecting her tear-streaked but determined face. On the screen, her bank accounts appeared. Mortgage, car, utilities, internet, insurance. All in her name. Every number dancing, every payment, reminding her of years of being looked down on. Amanda took a deep breath and started canceling each one, stopping mortgage payments. Utilities canceled automatically. Car, insurance, internet, all cut off that night. Every click was like a pair of scissors cutting the ties that bound her to her family. She was no longer a walking ATM. She was no longer the daughter compared and looked down upon. She was taking back her life. Outside, Austin was wrapped in holiday spirit. Christmas lights were starting to hang on houses everywhere. People hugged in the streets. Families gathered around dinner tables. But Amanda sat alone in her quiet apartment, feeling a strange emotion rise inside her. Painful but also relieved, as if she had just escaped an invisible prison. The question echoed in her mind, and it's a question for anyone listening to this story. What makes a kind, self-sacrificing girl finally turn into someone cold and decisive, cutting all ties? Could it be the breaking point of endurance? When love is met without appreciation? Amanda didn't have an answer yet, but that night she knew one thing for sure. This was the start of a new chapter. A chapter where, for the first time, she lived for herself. Amanda was born and raised in a quiet little town on the outskirts of Austin, Texas. Her family's wooden house sat at the end of the street, shaded by old oak trees, where kids could ride bikes around the neighborhood and everyone knew each other. From the outside, Amanda's family looked like any other typical middle-class American family. But inside, cracks had existed for a long time, starting with the clear favoritism her parents showed toward their youngest son, Ryan. From a young age, Amanda felt the difference in how she was treated. When she was only 7, Ryan had just turned 2. From then on, almost all of her parents' attention and care went to him. Amanda, as the eldest sister, was always reminded that she had to set an example, be patient, and be independent so her parents could focus on her little brother. She quietly accepted this, thinking it was her responsibility as the older sister. But that patience slowly turned into a silent wound that lasted throughout her childhood. When Amanda was 10, she brought home straight A's. She was excited, showing her parents, hoping for a hug or a word of praise. But all she got was her dad's indifferent remark, "You need to try harder, don't be complacent." Meanwhile, just weeks later, Ryan brought home a C on his math test, and her parents happily rewarded him with a new bike. Amanda sat in the corner watching her brother ride around the yard, feeling both bitter and hurt inside. The difference even showed in their bedrooms. Amanda had to stay in a small, cramped room with peeling paint and only an old bed. Ryan, a little older, was moved to a spacious room with a large window overlooking the garden. Amanda asked many times why, but her parents only said boys need more space, while girls should be neat and learn to endure. Answers like that kept repeating, engraving in her mind that she was always second, the one who had to yield. Despite lacking recognition at home, Amanda shined at school. She was a good student, hardworking, and always well-liked by her teachers. Thanks to her persistence and intelligence, Amanda earned a partial scholarship to college. But that money wasn't enough to cover all her expenses. She got no support from her parents, who said they had to save money for Ryan, who was just starting high school then. Amanda had to manage by taking on multiple part-time jobs. During the day, she worked as a waitress at a cafe, helped out at the library in the afternoon, and tutored local students in the evening. Some days she only slept 4 hours, but still pushed herself to class with a bright smile. While Amanda had to rely on herself to get through school, Ryan was fully supported by their parents. When he went to college, their parents didn't hesitate to borrow money, even mortgaging the house to pay his tuition. Amanda knew this well, and it made her feel a sharp sting of unfairness inside. But instead of rebelling, she chose to stay quiet and work even harder so she wouldn't be a burden. The difference was even clearer on special occasions. Amanda's birthdays were usually just a small cake her mom bought from the grocery store, with a few candles hastily lit. Ryan, on the other hand, always had big parties, friends coming in full force, and gifts piling up in his room. Amanda often wondered, Is it because I'm a girl that my parents think I don't need as much? But those years of lacking recognition forged an extraordinary strength in her. She learned to stand on her own and plan for her future independently. Graduating college with a software engineering degree, Amanda proved to the world that she could succeed without parental support. At 24, she landed a stable job at a major tech company in Austin, opening the door to a new life. However, that success was also the reason her family came back to her. When her father lost his job, her mother worked only part-time, and Ryan failed time and again. All the burdens fell on Amanda's shoulders. She started sending money home, at first just thinking it was temporary help. But gradually, the small amounts turned into fixed monthly payments, then into an unspoken responsibility that no one ever thanked her for. From the outside, anyone would see Amanda as the perfect example of the American dream, a young, smart woman with a solid career and a high income. But only those who truly understand know that behind that shining image is a heart full of pain. Amanda lived with the hurt of being underestimated and abandoned by her own family. She didn't need her parents to buy her a house or a car. She just wanted a compliment, a small sign of appreciation. But for many years, that never came. Ryan was still the same. He grew up spoiled, used to being praised. Any failure of Ryan's was excused by their parents as a stepping stone to future success. In their eyes, Ryan was the pride, while Amanda was just a shadow behind him. That kind of treatment slowly created an invisible distance inside Amanda. She loved her family, but that love was mixed with bitterness. She gave her all, but never truly felt like she belonged. And all those silent wounds built up, waiting to explode and turn into an earthquake at that fateful Thanksgiving dinner. In Texas, as in the rest of America, Thanksgiving isn't just a holiday. It's a symbol of reunion. Every year, on the fourth Thursday of November, streets, stores, and schools sparkle with festive colors. People drive for hours, even fly across states just to get home for a family dinner. Amanda's family home was no exception. That morning, the whole neighborhood was filled with the smell of roasted turkey carried by the breeze. Kitchens were bustling, ovens working at full blast. Texans are known for their generosity, so Thanksgiving tables are always overflowing. Stuffed turkey, rich cranberry sauce, creamy mashed potatoes, golden pumpkin pie, and plenty of other side dishes. In the living room, the television was tuned to the football channel, the annual Dallas Cowboys game echoing everywhere. Cheers, laughter, debates about players and strategies mixed with the clinking of dishes coming from the kitchen. For many American families, football on Thanksgiving Day is an essential tradition, just like the turkey at the center of the table. When the clock strikes 3 in the afternoon, the whole family gathers around the long table. Amanda's family tradition, like many others, is that before eating, everyone holds hands and shares what they are grateful for over the past year. Amanda's father usually leads the prayer. He gently bows his head, clasps his hands, and says, "We thank God for this meal, for this home, and for the loved ones here with us today." Then, one by one, each person shares what they cherish most. Some talk about their health, others mention work, and some are grateful for new opportunities. That moment is often when each family member feels connected and truly heard. It creates the illusion of a wide family embrace, where everyone is equally valued. For American viewers, just hearing about this scene feels familiar. They easily relate it to their own family meals, recalling the smell of turkey, the flickering candlelight, the laughter, and the warm feeling of everyone sitting together. Amanda used to love those moments. Every year, she prepared carefully, hoping that when everyone shared their gratitude, her parents would remember her. She dreamed of the moment her parents would hold her hand, look into her eyes, and say, "We are grateful for our daughter, who has always sacrificed for the family." But year after year, it never happened. Instead, the gratitude always went to Ryan for the little things he did, while Amanda was forgotten. In American culture, Thanksgiving is meant to be a time to put aside differences and bridge divides. It symbolizes gratitude and togetherness. But because of that value, rejection on this day is doubly painful. Being disowned on any regular day is heavy enough, but being rejected right at the Thanksgiving table, with the whole family and relatives watching, is the hardest wound to heal. In Texas, where community spirit is strong, neighbors often check in on each other, share food, and some families even throw block parties in their yards. That image only made Amanda's loneliness stand out even more. While families around her embraced and happily said thanks, Amanda sat quietly at the dinner table, listening to her parents raise a glass to celebrate her little brother, while her own efforts were ignored. That very contrast created a paradox. The day America celebrated gratitude was the day Amanda realized she had never truly been appreciated. A day meant for reunion turned into a day of division. And from a culture that values family and tradition, Amanda's story became even more bittersweet, making anyone who hears it empathize and wonder, if it were me, would I endure or let go? In 2008, as the entire U.S. was caught in an economic crisis, Amanda's family wasn't spared from the storm. Thomas, her father, had worked as a truck factory laborer for nearly 20 years. He was proud of his job and believed that with his seniority, he'd stay until retirement. But one October morning, the company announced massive layoffs. Despite his years of service, Thomas was on the list of those losing their jobs. That shock left the whole family struggling. Linda, Amanda's mother, worked part-time at a local library. Her small paycheck barely covered food and minor expenses. Now the family's burden fell entirely on her shoulders, but it was nothing compared to the flood of bills piling up. The house, once full of laughter, suddenly felt heavy. At dinner, Amanda's parents no longer talked about happy things, they only discussed rent, bank debts, and worries about tomorrow. Amanda had just turned 19 and was dreaming of earning a full scholarship to study abroad. She had prepared her application and received an acceptance letter from a university in California. But all that had to be put on hold. Seeing her father unemployed and her mother exhausted, Amanda knew the family couldn't afford the cost of studying far from home. So she decided to stay in Texas, choosing a state university to save money and working while studying. Those days were truly challenging. Amanda attended classes during the day and worked as a waitress at a nearby cafe during lunch breaks. In the afternoons, she took a part-time job at the library to earn some extra money. At night, she took a data entry job at a small company, sitting in front of the computer screen until late. Some nights, she only slept 4 hours before starting another packed day. While her classmates could join clubs, watch football games, date, or hang out with friends, Amanda just kept her head down, working and studying. She often joked with Claire, her best friend since freshman year, saying, "I don't need coffee. I am the coffee." But behind those smiles were dark circles under her eyes and a tired body. Amanda knew she was trading her youth to secure her future, and more importantly, to not be a burden to her parents during their hard times. What hurt Amanda even more was that while she struggled to manage everything on her own, Ryan was fully taken care of by their parents. When Ryan started college 3 years later, Thomas and Linda did everything they could to cover their youngest son's tuition. They even took out extra loans from the bank, regardless of the debt burden. Amanda couldn't help but feel hurt watching that. The day she walked through the school gates, no one saw her off, no congratulatory gifts. But when it was Ryan's turn, the whole family threw a small party, and neighbors came to celebrate. That silent comparison felt like a knife cutting into Amanda's heart. She tried to tell herself that, as the older sister, she had to be strong. But every night after work, seeing the neighbors' lights shining bright and hearing their family gathered around the dinner table, Amanda felt a lump in her throat. That year, not just her family, but all of America was struggling. Many families lost their homes and jobs. But for Amanda, the hardest part wasn't just the financial hardship. It was the fact that her efforts still went unnoticed. Even though she gave up her dreams and worked hard to support herself through college, her parents always took it for granted. To them, Amanda's independence was expected, while Ryan was the one who deserved special treatment and sacrifice. The 2008 shock became a turning point in Amanda's life. It forced her to grow up faster, to be more calculating, and more resilient. But at the same time, it planted a silent wound deep in her heart. That wound kept growing over the years, until one day, when she was disowned by her parents right at the Thanksgiving dinner table, it all exploded into an uncontrollable rage. After years of juggling work and school, Amanda finally graduated college with a top-notch degree in software engineering. She got an offer from a tech company in Austin with a starting salary much higher than her classmates. At 24, Amanda had a steady job, a neat little apartment, and an old car that got her to work. To her, it was a well-deserved reward after countless sleepless nights and hard work. At first, Amanda just wanted something simple. She hoped her parents would feel proud and see her efforts. But just a few months after starting her job, calls from her family started coming more often. At first, her parents called to check in and chat, but gradually the conversations turned to money. They complained about the electric bills, the risk of losing the house, and bank debts. Amanda had just started earning a steady paycheck, and seeing her parents struggle, she couldn't bear it. She agreed to help out a little, thinking it would only be temporary, but that temporary quickly became ongoing. The next month, her parents said they still hadn't managed the money and asked if Amanda could cover the mortgage again. Then came the electric, water, and internet bills. Even the car her dad was driving, they asked Amanda to take out a loan in her name and pay it off monthly. At first, Amanda hesitated, but when she saw her mom's worried eyes and her dad's sighs, she nodded yes. Before long, Amanda was carrying almost all the family expenses on her shoulders. $900 mortgage, $400 electric and water bills, $500 car loan, internet, insurance, and other miscellaneous costs. Every month, nearly $2,500 left her account to keep her parents and Ryan afloat. Meanwhile, Amanda still lived in a small apartment, driving an old car and putting off her dream of buying her own house. Unlike Amanda's quiet nature, Ryan was always praised. After graduation, he tried opening a small cafe with the idea of innovating the coffee experience. Amanda quietly contributed some money to help her brother get started, but just 3 months later, the cafe closed due to losses. Then, Ryan joined a group of friends to start a gaming startup, claiming it would become a billion-dollar company in the future. Their parents excitedly shared the project with neighbors, while Amanda silently knew it lasted less than half a year. It didn't stop there. Ryan then dove into the cryptocurrency field. He poured their parents' money into a vague project and ended up losing tens of thousands of dollars. Amanda objected, analyzing the risks, but their parents didn't listen. They just said, "Ryan has vision. You don't understand. You only have a stable job, but it's boring." Those words felt like knives cutting into Amanda's heart. She had supported the whole family with that steady salary. She had sacrificed so many opportunities for herself. Yet, in their eyes, her success wasn't something to be proud of. On the other hand, Ryan's repeated failures were praised as daring and ambitious. Claire, her close friend, often advised Amanda to stop. During evenings sitting together, Claire said, "You're not their ATM. If they don't appreciate you, you have to think about yourself." Amanda listened but found it hard to follow. Deep down, she still believed helping family was her duty. But the conflict inside Amanda kept growing. Every time she paid a bill, she felt drained, not just financially, but emotionally. She didn't expect her parents to repay her, just a word of acknowledgement, but that seemed far out of reach. Whenever she mentioned her success at work, her parents would change the subject to Ryan or criticize her job as nothing special. Gradually, Amanda realized she was just a shadow within her own family. She was there to carry the burden, to pay the bills, to sacrifice, yet was seen as boring. Meanwhile, Ryan, despite failing again and again, was still seen as the family's hope. A promising young man, that was the smoldering fire burning for many years. And when the fateful Thanksgiving dinner came, that fire finally erupted into a fierce blaze, burning down everything Amanda had tried to hold on to. In the fall of 2022, Amanda had just finished an important project at work. After months of working day and night, the product finally launched successfully, bringing the company a big contract with the bank. At the wrap-up meeting, the director stood up, applauded, and announced a generous bonus for the team. When the check arrived, Amanda froze, staring at the amount. It was the largest sum she had ever received in her career. Driving home, Amanda felt a mix of joy and relief. For the first time in years, she thought she could finally start making plans for herself. Maybe she would save up a down payment to buy a small house in Austin. The thought made her heart race, her eyes shining with hope. Finally, the dream of having a real home of her own, no burden on anyone, no dependence on anyone, seemed within reach. That evening, Amanda told Claire about it when they met at their usual coffee shop. Claire grabbed her hand, her eyes determined. "You have to use this money for yourself, Amanda. Buy a house. Or at least save it as capital for your future. Stop giving more to your family. You've sacrificed too much already. Amanda smiled, though her smile held a hint of hesitation. I know, but Thanksgiving is coming. I think maybe if I prepare a really thoughtful dinner this year, my parents might see things differently. Maybe they'll understand how hard I've tried. Claire sighed. You're hoping for something they've never done. Don't fool yourself thinking one dinner can change everything. But Amanda didn't answer. Inside her, a small flicker of hope still crept through. In the days that followed, Amanda got to work preparing. She drove to the biggest supermarket in the city, picking out the best turkey, almost 20 pounds, organically raised. She chose fresh bunches of vegetables, various spices, expensive red wine, the kind she'd never dared to buy before. Amanda also bought all 3 types of pies, pumpkin, pecan, and apple, to make sure everyone had a favorite. Not just the food. Amanda even redecorated her parents' kitchen. She bought a beige tablecloth embroidered with maple leaves, a new set of crystal glasses, and cinnamon orange scented candles. In total, she spent over $500 on one dinner. For many, that's a lot of money, but Amanda believed this investment would bring her what she always longed for: recognition from her parents. While choosing, Amanda recalled past years. Once, she made mashed potatoes, and her mom complained, "Too smooth, not traditional." Another time, the wine she bought was criticized by her dad as too sweet, not to his taste. But this year, she told herself, everything would be different. This year, she would prove to her parents that she knew how to do everything perfectly. Ryan was different. When Amanda called to ask if he could bring something, he scoffed. You know, I'm strapped for cash lately, but I'll be there, and I'll definitely bring some interesting stories about the new project. Amanda heard video game sounds from the phone and pressed her lips together softly. That's okay. Just having you there is enough. I've got everything covered. Inside, her hope still outweighed her disappointment. She believed that a sacred holiday like Thanksgiving could be a chance for everyone to put aside their differences, for her parents to see her true heart. She imagined the moment when the whole family held hands to pray, and her parents would look at her and say, "We're grateful for you, daughter." Just hearing that one sentence would make all her sacrifices worth it. Amanda spent the whole weekend testing recipes and planning cooking times. She carefully noted everything, from thawing the chicken, marinating, to baking times. She prepared every spice jar, every tool. Everything had to be perfect. To her, this was more than just a meal. This was her chance to prove her worth to her own family. Yet, she never expected all that preparation would lead to one of the most painful nights of her life. A night when instead of receiving recognition, she was pushed out of the family right in the middle of their Thanksgiving dinner. On Thanksgiving morning, Amanda woke up early. On the kitchen table in her small apartment were a bunch of carefully prepared food boxes, pre-marinated turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, and 3 butter and cinnamon-scented rolls. She checked each box, clearly labeling them so her parents could easily organize everything when she arrived. Outside, Austin was buzzing with holiday spirit. Red and yellow maple leaves covered the yard, neighbors had hung flags and lights, and a few families were gathered outside playing football. Amanda was driving the car she bought 2 months ago, a mid-sized sedan, not too flashy, but safe enough for long trips. It was the first time in years she allowed herself to buy something big for herself. But that joy quickly faded the moment she stepped into her parents' yard. Thomas, her father, opened the door. His eyes quickly scanned the heavy bags Amanda was carrying, then stopped at the new car parked outside. A new car? Looks fancy. At your age, no need to show off like that. His tone was blunt, without a single greeting or thank you. Amanda swallowed her hurt and forced a smile. It's just a mid-range car, Dad. I need a reliable car for my long commute. But deep down, she knew her father always saw any success of hers as arrogance or showing off. Walking into the house, Linda, her mother, was busy in the kitchen. Seeing her daughter, she glanced over and commented, "What are you wearing? That red wool dress looks nice." "But who dresses like that to cook? Mom's been up since 6. No time to doll up like you." Amanda forced a polite smile and tried to explain. "I prepared everything yesterday. Just need to reheat." But her explanation was quickly ignored. Amanda took a deep breath and set each food box on the kitchen table. She told herself, "It's okay. Things will get better once the whole family sits down to eat." Around noon, the doorbell rang. Ryan came in, empty-handed, wearing a bright smile. The parents immediately rushed out to greet him, hugging him like a cherished guest. "Our son is home. The hero of the family is here." Amanda stood watching from the kitchen, stirring the sauce, her heart aching. She had spent the whole week preparing, spent hundreds of dollars on food, but just one step from Ryan was enough to light up her parents' faces. In the living room, lively laughter filled the air as Ryan talked about his new fitness app project. His parents listened eagerly, nodding as if he had just signed a $1 million deal. Amanda stepped out, inviting everyone to try the appetizers, but hardly anyone paid attention. Ryan raised his soda glass, all eyes on him, while Amanda faded into a shadow behind them. When the meal began, the whole family gathered around the long table. Amanda quietly placed the golden turkey in the center, along with other dishes she had carefully prepared. But when it came to seating, she was pushed to the end of the table. The parents sat at the head, Ryan right beside them, followed by other relatives. Amanda sat quietly at the far end, far away from the heart of the conversation. At that moment, she felt like a stranger in her own home, the same home her money had kept alive for years. The meal unfolded in bitter contrast. Ryan talked about potential investors. The parents nodded in approval. When Amanda tried to chime in about the project her company had just completed, her father quickly brushed it off. "Sounds fine, but you're just an employee. Nothing special about that." The atmosphere around the table grew heavy, and Amanda choked back her words. She looked around, seeing some relatives' eyes filled with awkwardness, but no one spoke up. The tradition of prayer before the meal began. Thomas bowed his head. "We thank God for bringing Ryan back to us. Thankful for family, for health." Not a word was said about Amanda, who had brought the feast today. When the prayer ended, everyone said, "Amen," in unison, then quickly passed around the dishes. Amanda quietly picked up a piece of chicken, but inside she felt a cold emptiness. All her hard work, all her hopes for recognition, vanished into silence and indifference. The feeling of being pushed aside wasn't just about sitting at the end of the table, it was her place in this family's entire life. She was the one working tirelessly to keep the roof over their heads, yet treated like an outsider. Meanwhile, Ryan just had to smile, and even a half-baked idea could earn him hero-like praise. That night, a fire ignited inside Amanda. It wasn't just simple jealousy, it was years of pain from being overlooked, dismissed, and left out of respect. And that fire led to a breaking point, when Amanda decided she wouldn't stay silent any longer. The clinking of knives and forks, the smell of turkey, mashed potatoes, and wine filled the dining room. Amanda sat at the end of the table, trying to keep a smile on her face. She told herself to be patient, just a little longer, and surely there would be a moment when her parents would give her the recognition she had been hoping for. As everyone started passing the dishes around, Uncle George suddenly turned to Amanda and asked, "I heard your company just landed a big project, right? What do you do there, Amanda?" All the relatives' eyes turned toward her. This was her chance to share her achievements, the result of years of hard work and sleepless nights. Amanda took a breath and smiled softly. "Yes, I'm the lead software developer for a major bank. Recently, my team launched a new platform. It's expected to be used by millions of people. It's a big step forward for the company and an accomplishment I'm very proud of." No sooner had she finished speaking than Thomas interrupted. "I just fixed computers. Nothing special. They're the ones who built the company. I just work for a paycheck." She went silent for a few seconds, clutching her glass tightly. All the effort, all the sleepless nights, reduced to just 4 words. Just fix computers. Mom leaned forward, smiling proudly at the relatives. Did everyone hear what Ryan said? "My son is developing an online fitness app. It will change how people work out at home. It's a fantastic idea." He leaned back in his chair, smiling confidently. "Yeah, I'm planning to raise funds. Just a little more investment and this app will take off. My son has great vision. He dares to think and act. Definitely entrepreneurial blood." Her story was cut off, dismissed like an unworthy tale. Meanwhile, Ryan's vague, still undeveloped idea was being praised to the skies. A rush of emotions surged inside her. For years she had silently endured, hoping that someday she would be recognized. But now, on a day when the whole country honors gratitude, her parents still look down on her. Suddenly, a pent-up strength in her chest burst out into words. Amanda slammed her glass down on the table, her voice ringing clearly. "Do you know who has been paying for this house for the past 9 years? Who's been paying the mortgage, the electricity, the water, the car, the insurance. It's me. Nearly $30,000 every year. Without me, this house would have been lost a long time ago. The sound of cutlery stopped. Only the ticking of the wall clock remained. Ryan stiffened, his eyes wide open. Linda froze, her lips trembling but unable to speak. Thomas looked at Amanda, his face flushed, hands trembling on the table. The whole dining table fell into a dead silence. The relatives glanced at each other, some looking down at their plates, pretending not to hear. No one expected the usually gentle, patient daughter to say such things. Amanda sat up straight, eyes glistening with tears, but speaking firmly. I spent all my youth carrying the burden. I put off my dream of buying my own home just to keep this roof over your heads. And yet, in your eyes, all I do is just fix computers? That was the first time Amanda didn't stay silent, didn't swallow her tears. She spoke out, revealing the truth right in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner. And at that moment, the fire of family conflict flared up fiercely, paving the way for an emotional storm that swept everything away in the hours that followed. After Amanda spoke those seemingly simple but heavy words, the atmosphere around the dining table was tense, like a stretched string. No one breathed heavily, no one dared to move. All the lively chatter from before suddenly disappeared, leaving only a heavy silence pressing on everyone's chest. Thomas, Amanda's father, his face flushed, eyes burning with anger, as if ready to explode. He slammed his hand on the table, causing cutlery and glasses to shake, some plates even shifting slightly. The noise echoed through the room, startling those sitting around. He growled, "No one is forcing you to pay. If you're volunteering, don't think a few bucks give you the right to look down on this family. Money can't buy love." Tears welled up, but her voice trembled enough for everyone at the table to hear clearly. "I have never looked down on this family. I have never looked down on this family. All these years, I've worked hard, paying nearly $30,000 every year. Have Mom and Dad ever said thank you?" She sighed, her eyes sparkling with sarcasm. "Amanda, you're always like this. Since you were little, you've always thought you were the one being treated unfairly. The truth is, you're just jealous of Ryan. You can't stand that your brother is loved more by Mom and Dad. It's all just childish jealousy." Those words stabbed straight into Amanda's heart. Growing up, she always heard comparisons, but her parents had never been this blunt before. She bit her lip, her hand clenched so tightly her nails dug into her skin. She choked back tears, her voice breaking. "If that's the case, let Ryan pay the $30,000 every year instead of me. I've carried enough." He stammered, "Sis, you're overreacting." "I'm not—" But before he could finish, Thomas cut him off coldly. "Enough. If you feel burdened, then forget it. You don't have to pay anything anymore. But from now on, you're no longer a part of this family. Leave the house immediately, and don't come back for Christmas." Those words fell like a knife, severing the last fragile tie between Amanda and her parents. The whole table went silent. The relatives around the table looked down, some casting pitying glances at Amanda. A few wanted to speak up, but no one had the courage to face the fury burning in Thomas's eyes. Amanda sat still for a few seconds, as if she couldn't believe what she just heard. Her ears were ringing, her heart pounding so hard it felt suffocating. Her ears buzzed, heart pounding so hard it felt suffocating. In that moment, a lifetime of memories flooded back. The times she brought home straight, report cards, but only got a cold nod. The days she worked herself to exhaustion to pay her own tuition. The years she quietly supported her family, and the times her parents praised Ryan, even though he kept failing. It all boiled down to one sentence. "Don't come back at Christmas." Amanda slowly stood up. The chair creaked harshly on the wooden floor, breaking the silence. She picked up the napkin, neatly placed it on the table, then clenched her purse. Her eyes welled up, but her voice was strangely calm. "I understand." She turned and walked heavily toward the door. Behind her, Ryan lowered his head. Linda shook hers, and Thomas poured another glass of wine, his hand trembling but his gaze cold. No one called Amanda back. Only a few relatives watched with a mix of discomfort and pity, as if witnessing someone being expelled from the very home they helped build. When the door closed, the atmosphere in the dining room shattered. Some sighed, others shook their heads quietly. But dinner went on, as if Amanda's departure was just a minor detail. Amanda stepped out into the cold night. The late autumn wind blew, tangling her hair. On the leaf-covered path, Laughter and voices echoed from inside, but to her it sounded distant like another world. She approached the car, her hand trembling as she opened the door, eyes blurred with tears. In that moment, Amanda realized a bitter truth. She had never truly belonged to this family. All these years, she was just the one behind the scenes, silently carrying the burden, quietly sacrificing, hoping one day to be recognized. But the only thing she received was rejection. She started the car and drove off into the night. Through the rearview mirror, the house where she grew up, the place she poured money and effort into preserving, grew smaller and vanished. Tears fell onto the steering wheel, but mixed in was a strange sense of relief. Because when that door closed, Amanda knew she had just crossed into another threshold. The threshold of freedom. That night, Amanda drove back to her small apartment. The city of Austin was still bustling with lights, the streets glowing with early Christmas colors, but inside her was only a cold emptiness. She sat silently in the seat, hands still on the steering wheel, tears streaming down endlessly. Years of carrying the burden, hopes exchanged for recognition, only to be met with rejection in the end. When she got home, Amanda sank into the sofa. The neighbor's television sound drifted over, the smell of turkey still lingering in the kitchen, all reminding her of the recent party. But instead of sitting and crying, Amanda opened her laptop. An idea sparked, first vague, then growing into a clear decision. She opened her personal spreadsheet and entered each number. Mortgage payment, $900 a month. Utilities, Stiersto dollars. Car payment, Petsto dollars. Insurance, $200. Internet and cable, $150. Other small expenses, $300. All adding up to nearly $2,500 a month. She multiplied that by 12 months, then again by 9 years. The number on the screen stunned Amanda. Over $250,000. $250,000. That was the amount she had spent on her parents and younger brother over nearly a decade. That money could have bought a nice house, been invested, or allowed her to live comfortably. But it all vanished, replaced by bitter denial. Amanda leaned back in the chair, feeling heavy inside. Then her eyes caught an important detail. All contracts, all accounts, from the house, car, internet, insurance, to the security system in her parents' house, were all in her name. Amanda was not just the one paying. She was the official owner on paper. She gave a wry smile. Dad said money doesn't make a family. So from now on, let's try living without my money. Amanda's fingers moved over the keyboard, each click like scissors cutting through chains. First, she canceled the payment for next month's mortgage. A confirmation email popped up. Transaction has been stopped. Next, she cut off all the electricity, water, internet, and cable television services. The company sent notices. Services would be disconnected if no new payment was received from the account holder. Amanda also logged into the bank system and terminated the car loan she had co-signed for her parents. Automatically, the finance company would repossess the car. That night, she worked until almost midnight. After pressing the final button to remove her card information from the insurance contract, Amanda closed her laptop. A strange sense of relief washed over her chest. For the first time in years, she felt she was no longer an invisible ATM machine. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the curtains, Amanda's phone rang nonstop. Dozens of missed calls and messages filled the screen. She quietly set the phone aside, poured herself a hot cup of coffee, and sat down calmly. On the other side of town, in the house where she had just been kicked out the night before, chaos was unfolding. The internet was completely cut off. The television showed only a black screen. Ryan screamed because he couldn't get online to contact the investor. Linda called the service company and was told the account had been canceled. Before they could understand what was happening, they heard a loud noise outside. The family's SUV was being towed away by the finance company. Thomas ran out yelling, trying to stop them, but the staff coldly pointed to the documents. The loan contract was under Amanda's name, and the debt was unpaid. The car had to be repossessed. Curious neighbors stood in the yard, watching the noisy scene. A few people whispered to each other, "What's going on? The car's being towed?" An elderly woman shook her head. "This family always bragged about having a son doing big business. And now look at this." When the police arrived, the man loudly claimed, "Someone is sabotaging my family, canceling all accounts." But when the police checked, Everything was legal. All the services were under Amanda's name, and she had full authority to cancel them. The house fell into a desperate situation. No internet, no car, bills piling up. Thomas was angry, Linda was crying, and Ryan was cursing his sister on the phone. But Amanda didn't answer. The whole neighborhood gradually found out what happened. People were talking, saying the family used to proudly boast, having a son who started a business, but it turned out the daughter was the one covering all the expenses. Now that the support was cut off, the true face was finally revealed. Amanda sat quietly in her apartment, watching her phone buzz nonstop. Messages from her dad, her mom, and Ryan, mixed with threats and pleas. But she didn't reply. She just gave a bitter smile, took a sip of coffee, and let the chaotic world outside swirl on. This wasn't blind revenge. It was a declaration of freedom. After 9 years of being overlooked, Amanda finally cut the ties that bound her. She was no longer the shadow behind them. She was a woman stepping into a new chapter of her life. The next morning, when news spread that their car had been towed and the internet was cut off throughout the neighborhood, the Thomas family could no longer hide the truth. Linda at first tried to make up the excuse of a system error, but after a few calls to the service company, the truth came out, and it was Amanda who canceled everything. The news spread quickly among relatives. Within just a few days, cousins in Houston, Dallas, and even New York had heard the story. Many were shocked to learn that for nearly a decade, Amanda had been the one carrying almost all the financial burdens for her parents. They had believed Thomas and Linda when they said Ryan was successful and contributing a lot to the household. Now, the fake facade had fallen away. The relatives' reactions split into two camps. Some spoke up in support of Amanda. Uncle George called her, his voice full of sympathy. "You've done way too much. Your parents were truly wrong not to appreciate you. They can't expect you to keep sacrificing forever." Natalie, her cousin, also texted, "Sis, I've always known you were the one who got the short end of the stick. I'm behind you all the way." Those words gave Amanda some relief. At least someone understood. But not everyone was on her side. A few aunts and uncles called to scold. "Amanda, they're still your parents after all. How could you be so cruel as to cut them off like this?" Outsiders would wonder what people would think when parents have to endure that. Some even sneered, "You've studied too much and forgotten filial duty." Those words hurt Amanda deeply, but she stayed silent, because more than anyone else, she knew she had paid the price for the past 9 years. Meanwhile, Thomas and Linda were in a panic. Amanda's phone kept ringing non-stop. At first, the messages from her mother were full of anger. "Amanda, you need to restore everything immediately. You're embarrassing the family." Then they turned into pleas. "Dad is so stressed, his blood pressure is rising. If he gets sick, it will be your fault." Then threats followed. "We have spoken to a lawyer. What you're doing could be considered elder abuse. You will be sued." Ryan kept sending harsh messages. "You're selfish. You've torn the family apart. You abandoned Mom and Dad when they needed you the most. You will regret this." Reading those words, Amanda's heart ached, but she didn't respond. She realized that if she kept answering the phone and arguing, she would fall back into the same cycle. So, Amanda decided to stay silent. She changed her number, blocked many contacts, and kept only those who truly cared. More importantly, Amanda sought therapy. At her first appointment, she sat before the therapist, eyes red-rimmed. "I don't even know what's my fault anymore, or what's true. For years I believed that if I tried harder, gave more, I would be loved. But now I see I was just a tool." The therapist nodded gently, saying, "Amanda, what you've been through is not your fault. It's a form of emotional and financial abuse. What you're doing now isn't cruel, it's protecting yourself." Hearing those words, Amanda broke down in tears. For the first time in years, she felt seen and acknowledged in her pain. In the following weeks, Amanda faithfully attended weekly therapy sessions. She learned to recognize her emotions and set boundaries. She started journaling, writing down every suppressed memory. Each page uncovered a wound and also a step toward healing. Outside, Thomas's family continued to struggle. They had to borrow money everywhere to pay the mortgage. Had to figure out how to pay the bills on her own. Ryan had to take a part-time job at a sporting goods store to contribute a little. The image of the successful family they once bragged about to the neighbors was now shattered. Despite being blamed by relatives and pressured by her parents, Amanda stayed silent. She understood that this time, if she gave in, everything would go back to the way it was, and she'd lose another decade, maybe even her whole life, living for others. That silence wasn't just Amanda protecting herself. It was also a statement that she was no longer the invisible shadow in the family. She was her own person now, a free, strong woman learning to heal and rebuild her life from scratch. Over time, Amanda's wounds slowly started to heal. At first, she'd panic every time the phone rang, afraid it would be her parents or Ryan calling to blame her. But after weeks of firmly staying silent, the calls gradually became less frequent. Amanda began to feel a new breath of air, a space to think about herself instead of constantly carrying others' burdens. The first thing Amanda noticed was that she was sleeping more deeply. No more sleepless nights worrying about mortgage bills due or her parents' car being repossessed by the bank. She could lay down and fall asleep naturally, for the first time in years. She also started joining a support group for adults who had been abused by their families. There, Amanda met people with different stories, but one thing in common: they'd all been emotionally and financially exploited by their own relatives. In those meetings, Amanda shared how she'd supported her family for nearly a decade without being appreciated. Hearing others say, "Me too," brought her relief. It turned out she wasn't alone. What she went through wasn't overthinking, but a real form of abuse. Along with individual therapy, joining the group helped Amanda heal step by step. She learned to set boundaries, to say no without feeling guilty. Every time she said no, she felt like she was reclaiming a piece of power she'd lost before. Financially, Amanda started living for herself. Instead of spending almost her entire paycheck on her parents' house, she saved and put money aside. Just 6 months later, Amanda had enough for a down payment on a small apartment in downtown Austin. On the day she signed the contract, tears welled up in her eyes. The apartment wasn't big, but it was a space that belonged to her alone, a place where no one could kick her out. No one could say she wasn't enough. But she didn't stop there. Amanda used her tech experience to start a small IT service company. At first, she only took consulting and system repair contracts for a few local businesses, but slowly the business grew. She didn't quit her main job, but her own company gave her a sense of control and an extra income. More importantly, it symbolized that she had escaped the role of the family's bill payer. Now, Amanda was an independent entrepreneur, making her own choices. While Amanda gradually recovered and built a new life, her old family fell into a downward spiral. Ryan, after failing with his fitness app idea, jumped into several other startup projects, from online sales to trying real estate investment. All of them quickly collapsed. He was still used to being coddled by his parents, and without Amanda to shoulder the burden, Ryan became even more of a drain. Thomas and Linda tried to hold on at first, but with their limited savings, they couldn't keep up with the mortgage. Warning letters from the bank kept coming, and just a few months later, they had to sell the house once considered their pride. They moved into a smaller rented apartment in the suburbs, where neighbors were strangers and no one admired them. Amanda heard about this through family members. Some blamed her, saying if you hadn't cut off support, they wouldn't have ended up like this. But Amanda had learned to stand firm. She knew that if she kept trying to save them, her whole life would be trapped in an endless cycle. Her parents had to take responsibility for their choices, and Ryan needed to learn to support himself instead of relying on his sister's sacrifice. Each day that passed, Amanda felt her own recovery more clearly. In the morning, she brewed coffee in the sunlit kitchen of her new apartment. At night, she practiced yoga, wrote in her journal, or met up with friends who truly valued her. Though memories of being kicked out by her parents on Thanksgiving still sting sometimes, Amanda no longer lets it control her. It became a milestone, reminding her that family means something only when respect is part of it. Amanda is no longer the daughter who pays for the whole family. She is an independent woman, steadily building her life on her own terms. And on this journey, she found herself again a strong, resilient Amanda who deserves love and respect. Looking back on nearly a decade of sacrifices for her family, Amanda learned a bitter but profound lesson. Family can't be measured by the money you spend, only by the recognition and respect you receive. Amanda once believed that if she did more, if she provided more, her parents would see her love and effort, but the truth proved otherwise. When love isn't met with gratitude, it turns into exploitation. When sacrifice goes unacknowledged, it turns you into a tool. And when you stay silent, the line between love and abuse slowly fades away. That fateful Thanksgiving night wasn't just a huge shock for Amanda. It was a turning point that helped her see her own worth clearly. Being rejected by her parents in front of the whole family was a deep wound, but also a wake-up call. In that moment, Amanda realized that staying meant burying her own future. Only by walking away and cutting the dependency could she truly save herself. This lesson isn't just for Amanda, it's for anyone watching her story today. Many of us have probably felt overlooked, used, or disrespected by our families. We try, hoping that someday our sacrifices will be recognized. But the truth is, if your loved ones don't appreciate you from the start, the more you give, the more drained you become. Cutting off a toxic family relationship is an incredibly difficult decision. Society often teaches us that family is forever, that blood is thicker than water. But reality is different. True family isn't a place where you're used or hurt. It's where you're supported and loved. If that doesn't exist, you have the right to stand up and walk away. Amanda chose to walk away. She chose to stop before losing her entire youth. And because of that, she found herself again, a free, strong woman who sleeps peacefully, has her own career, and most importantly, respects herself. The message for the audience is, remember that love can't exist without gratitude. And sometimes, the only way to protect yourself is to set clear boundaries, even if it means cutting off toxic blood relatives. That's not selfish. It's how you save your soul and your future. If you're watching this story, ask yourself, are you carrying sacrifices that go unrecognized? Are you living in a family that takes your giving for granted? If so, pause and reflect, because sometimes the bravest thing isn't to keep enduring, but to be strong enough to say, enough. Amanda's story reminds us that true family love doesn't come from promises or blood, but from mutual respect and recognition. Without that, family is just an empty shell, and you have the right to find a new family who truly values you. So, we want to hear from you. If you've ever experienced betrayal within your own family, would you choose to forgive or to free yourself? Share your story in the comments below. Maybe your experience will become a source of encouragement for someone out there who's also struggling to break free from a toxic family. Because sometimes, honest sharing has more healing power than anything else. And don't forget, you are not alone. There are many people like Amanda, like you, who are learning to step out and start over. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's full story. Amanda's story is not just a family tragedy, but a reminder to all of us that family love only truly matters when it comes with recognition and respect. No one deserves to live a lifetime in silence, being looked down on, or exploited by those closest to them. Every family has its dark moments and wounds that are hard to name, but the important thing is that we recognize our limits and know we have the right to set boundaries to protect ourselves. Because Amanda, after everything, found herself again, found peace, found freedom, and built a new life based on respect. If you've been through something similar, remember, you're not alone. There are others out there, just like you, fighting to break free from toxic ties. And every step you take, no matter how small, is part of your healing journey. Don't forget to subscribe to the Crying Inside channel to keep hearing more heartfelt family stories and real-life lessons that touch the heart. Each story will be a mirror, helping you see yourself clearly and understand the value of love and self-respect in life. Once again, thank you for being with us. Keep your heart strong enough to love and wise enough to know when to let go.